Oh, good channels. It's nice to be here with you, channels. Very nice. So today we're reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 8, text number 15. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Upecha punarjanma Dukalayam shashvatam Natnuvanti mahatmana Samsadin paramam gata. Translation and purport by the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. After attaining me, the great souls, who are yogis in devotion, never return to this temporary world, which is full of misery, because they have attained the highest perfection. Purport. Since this temporary material world is full of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, naturally he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, the Lord of Vrindavan, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in Vedic literature as Avyakta and Akshara and Paramagati. In other words, that planet is beyond our material vision, and it is inexplicable. But it is the highest goal, the destination for the Mahatmas, great souls. The Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees, and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness, and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna and Krishna's association and nothing else. That is the highest perfection of life. This verse specifically mentions the personalist devotees of the Supreme Lord Krishna. These devotees in Krishna consciousness achieve the highest perfection of life. In other words, they are the Supreme Soul. Mandevam Shri Guru Shri Yata Bhagavan Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagama Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadaitam Zavajutam Bharijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shah Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Svaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shamyavadi Paschatyanishatarine. This is amazing wisdom, absolutely amazing wisdom. Describing these Mahatmas, the great souls. You see, this material world is actually a miserable place. Birth, death, old age, disease. It's described by great saints as being no fit place for a gentleman's living. But in spite of the fact that this is not a very fit place of habitation for a gentleman or a lady, the Mahatmas are completely beyond this consciousness. They don't care where they are. This is the amazing thing that Prabhupada is saying in this purport. They don't care for any material planet. You see, there's millions of material planets. This Earth is just one planet. Now the scientists tell us there is only life on this planet. Now some scientists actually have the idea there's life on other planets. Actually, some scientists have some very powerful radio receptors. They're trying to see if any radio messages are coming from outer space. They're constantly monitoring outer space. If some messages are coming through, well, the messages are coming through, described by Prabhupada. He says, the Mahatmas receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees. So the messages are actually coming through from other worlds. That's the thing. But they don't have the proper receptors or receptacles, the proper instruments to receive those messages. But in this Krishna conscious movement, we train you how you can receive those messages. How you can actually receive those messages from the realized devotees. You see. Through purified consciousness. You have much more powerful instruments within your own psyche than the scientists will ever be able to concoct with their wires and their microchips, etc., etc., etc. You have much more powerful receptacles for receiving messages from other worlds. But you have to purify your consciousness, you see, that's all. So the state of purification of consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Or you can call it Christ consciousness or Buddha consciousness. It's the same principle. Universal consciousness, probably even called it universal consciousness. But we prefer the name Krishna because the name Krishna is the most accurate scientific word to use for it. It's not a sectarian thing, it's a scientific thing. It's like scientists like to be precise and accurate when they talk about things. So we are not really religionists, although it may appear that we're religious. That's not. We're actually scientists of higher consciousness. That is our actual position. Of course, we live a religious life. We follow moral principles. We bow down to God. Everything you expect a religious person to do, we do, but this is far beyond religion. This is purifying the consciousness to connect oneself with the Supreme Person who is the source of all existence. So the amazing thing here is that even though, as I mentioned a few moments ago, this material world is quite a distasteful place, all kinds of unpleasant weather, all kinds of unpleasant political situations, economic situations, ecological situations, and the problems just get worse and worse. I grew up in the 50s and the 1950s, and it's a dramatically different world now than it was in the 50s, dramatically different. And it just keeps going down and down and down. In spite of the fact that we now have iPhones and internet, the actual quality of living on this planet, how hard people have to work just to get a little food to eat. When I was a kid, all the ladies stayed at home. And the man could go work, and it just took one income to support a comfortable living. Everybody used to have one car, and everybody was a bit content, you see. You could work 40 hours a week, and you'd have all the time in the evening, be with your family, and weekends. There was a lot of leisure time. You see. But now the husband and wife both work, they send the kids out to get jobs. I mean, this is crazy. Where's the time to actually, people just working like dogs, just to pay the bills? It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Everything is being provided by God anyway. The food, the raw materials we use to build our houses and to heat our houses, these are all given by God for free. Free of charge, He's giving us everything. But somebody is coming in the middle and they are exploiting, you see. This is called, Prabhupada calls the vested interests. You see. They're coming in the middle, they're exploiting the situation for their own material profit. It's becoming more and more of an exploitative world, you see. So it's a nasty place in that sense. But for one who is Krishna conscious, even though this world is unpleasant, it doesn't matter to him. He can be anywhere because he's living in a different state of consciousness. It's amazing. Prabhupada says they don't even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna and Krishna's association. So what does that mean? That means that they don't have to go to the spiritual world to get Krishna's association. If they don't want to go to the spiritual planet, they only want Krishna's association. That means they can associate with Krishna even right here in Copenhagen. Embellish the association of that Supreme Person as the source of all existence. This is not an ordinary person, Krishna. He's an amazing person. At the very beginning of the universe, I'm talking 155 trillion years ago, there was a great personality who was empowered to be the engineer of this universe. His name was Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma couldn't figure out when he was born what his duty was, what his mission was. He didn't have any parents to tell him anything. He was all alone in this universe. He was bewildered. What's going on here? What am I supposed to do? It was completely dark. There was no sun. It was a shell of the universe. It had nothing, it hadn't been filled in yet. It's an empty shell. He was wondering, what am I supposed to do? What's going on? He was born in a lotus flower, actually, that had come from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who was lying in the bottom half of the universe, in an ocean called the Garbhodak Ocean. So he was born out of this lotus flower. He's wondering, what's going on? It's totally dark. He crawled down the lotus stem, trying to see if he could figure out what was going on. And still he couldn't find anything. He came back up to his lotus flower seat, and he heard nearby this sound vibration. Ta-pa. The 16th and the 21st letters from the Sparsha alphabet, the Sanskrit alphabet. He heard these two syllables, ta-pa, which means austerity. He said, oh, it's supposed to do some austerities to realize the Supreme. So he did that. And he had a complete vision of everything, the spiritual world, complete vision of the Supreme Person and his eternal pastimes in the spiritual world. He understood his own personal identity in the Lord's pastimes in the spiritual world. He has full realization of everything, and he understood what his mission was here in this material world at the same time. And he very kindly wrote down, actually it was an oral tradition and earlier, that at some point in history it was written down for our benefit. What's called the Brahma Samhita. Unfortunately, most of the Brahma Samhita was completely lost. But the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita was discovered 500 years ago by Lord Chaitanya in a temple in South India called the Adi Keshava Temple. Lord Chaitanya discovered this manuscript where Lord Brahma was revealing what he had experienced, what he had realized about the Supreme Person. Very, very beautiful mantras he chanted. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, Ananda Chinmaya. I'm mixing up the other one.
Sadutmala Vigraha. Sadutmala Vigrahasha.
I was learning another one that has the same beginning. No, not that one. The other one he had, that's right. I was learning a new one today which had the same first word, and that's why I'm getting it mixed up. Ananda Rasa Chinmaya, that verse. And now I got them mixed up with each other. Ananda Chinmaya. No, I'm getting it mixed up. But the translation is very beautiful. I have that in my memory. Lord Brahma says, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus true of the most dazzling splendor. Oh, Angani Yasha Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiranjaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadurvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaram Bhajami. So he's saying, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each and every one of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and thus eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. So Brahma was just in one of the universes, but his vision was beyond his own little universe. He was able to see all the universes. You see, this right now we're in one little universe. We think it's very, very big, but it's very tiny little universe. Actually, outside of this universe that we're in, there's a shell that's covering it. The shell is many, many times thicker than the open space in the middle. If you were to look on a graph, the open space in the middle would be a little tiny dot, and the shell would be the humongous thing. There's an impenetrable shell that you can never get through with a spaceship, or a pickaxe, or anything. You can't tunnel your way out of this universe. But by the power of mantra, you see, one can penetrate through the coverings of the universe. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This mantra will actually carry you. If you chant it with faith and with love, this mantra will carry you through those thick millions and billions of miles thick coverings of the universe. So Brahma realized that there's not only this universe, but there's unlimited universes within a 1/4 portion of the creation of Krishna. So he had a vision of the whole thing. He saw that beyond this whole conglomeration of material universes called the material sky, there is a vast unlimited Padavyoma, spiritual sky. And there's unlimited planets in that spiritual sky, but there's a topmost planet called Krishna Loka, and there Govinda is residing in his eternal pastimes. And with every limb of his transcendental body, which is not different from he himself, Krishna is able to see, maintain, and manifest all these infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. Now that's an interesting statement, because Normally we think of many material universes, but according to this verse, as translated by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, there's many spiritual universes as well. We always heard there's many planets in the spiritual world, but the translation of this is the spiritual universes, both the universes, both spiritual and mundane. The infinite universe is both spiritual and mundane. So anyway, that can be researched further by our scholars. But the point is that this amazing person, Krishna, is manifesting everything from himself, you see. And at the present moment, we're here in this material existence because we had, even though we were originally inhabitants of that transcendental world, we had some curiosity or some tendency to try to be independent from the world. And by misusing that tendency, we were facilitated. You want to be independent? Okay. I'll give you a place where you can feel you're independent from me. And you try it and see how you like it. Just like my mother when I was a kid, she said, "Son, if you ever want to run away from home, just let me know, I'll pack your bags for you." If you want to be independent, it's okay, I'll facilitate you, my dear son, she told me. So, God gives that facility. My mother didn't want me to feel I was a prisoner in the house, you see. She didn't want me to feel I'm a prisoner. If you want to run away, I'll facilitate you, she told me. So in the same way, God is very kind. He don't want to make us feel like we're prisoners. You see. If you want to leave me, that's all right, I'll give you facility. I'll give you a place where you can think. You will be whatever you can think. You're the supreme if you like. Copenhagen. Or any city, I'm not picking on Copenhagen. Every place in this mature world, we're all walking and strutting around, like we're the supreme, like we're the center of existence. That's the material consciousness. So, here we are. We made a mistake, and we ran away from home. Krishna packed our bags for us. He gave us facility here. But now, if we actually wake up and realize, this isn't such a pleasant situation. I mean, I really don't feel like getting old and getting sick and dying. It's not really my cup of herbal tea. To get old and get sick and die, is it? I'd rather stay young forever, That's my nature. I don't want to be diseased or old or laying on the deathbed. Why am I being forced to do these things which I don't want to do? I mean, is life that cruel? Did I have to suffer? When you ask these questions, you see, then he's a fit candidate for what's called self-realization. I remember it hit me when I was a kid in university. Actually, it was amazing. Just the same time that Prabhupada arrived in New York is when I started thinking about self-realization. Tell me the spiritual master is important. Just by setting his foot on the American soil. The exact same time, I was completely into the whole material thing, get a career, go to college, enjoy your college days, get a career. I was completely into it. As soon as I hit that college campus, Prabhupada hit New York City, September 1965, The same exact time that Prabhupada arrived in America, I started thinking, what is all this? Just by the presence of the pure devotee arriving in the U.S., it affected me. It did affect me. Prabhupada's presence, even though I didn't know about him, he was 2,000 miles away. I was in a little college town in North Texas called Sherman, Texas. He was way out there in New York City, but still, just by his presence in the United States, it was having an impact. The pure devotee has a powerful impact on the whole universe, you see. So I was thinking, what is this? Here I'm working so hard. I was a good student. I was what's called the Dean's List. You know, the top-notch students made it to the Dean's List. So I was on the Dean's List regularly, being one of the top students in the school. Well, I was thinking, what is this? I'm working so hard to make good grades, to get a good job, to get a good wife, to get a good house, to get a good car, to get some good kids, to get a good coffin on which I'll get some good flowers once a year till they forget about me. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. There's got to be something more than this. It couldn't just be that. Life couldn't be that miserable. That God couldn't be that cruel. That's all there was, you see. So, I was looking for someone who could tell me what's the answer. No one could. We were studying all the great Western philosophers in our standard training there at the liberal arts school. Every student had to study the whole history of Western civilization. All the great thinkers. We studied the Greek philosophers, the Roman philosophers, the European, the medieval philosophers, the Renaissance philosophers, the existentialist philosophers. We ran the whole gamut, but nobody could really say anything that made sense to me. Then I heard that there were yogis in India who had become self-realized, who achieved samadhi, a state of ecstasy, by meditation. I went, let me find out about that, you see. So gradually, after I found the greatest yogi, the greatest transcendentalist, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. There are many yogis, gurus, swamis, rishis, etc., but generally they teach what's called impersonal philosophy, which has some advantages and also has disadvantages. It teaches you that you're not your body. That's very good. It says you're not, you are spirit. They teach you. That's good. You're not your body, you're spirit. That's good. But the trouble is, they teach you that actually you are God. You simply forgot that you're God. Now you have to again realize that you're God. You see. I actually tried it. I tried it for a few days and I felt pretty good. Wow, I'm God. Cool. But then I could see it wasn't, God means whatever you want, you get, right? Supreme power, but it wasn't working. And I realized it wasn't really a valid philosophy. And so again, I was searching. This guru, this swami, this technique, that I was being disappointed again and again and again and again. And finally, after a long, circuitous route over a period of years, actually, I finally came to this greatest spiritual master in the history of the universe, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It was actually predicted in the scriptures that he would come. There are writings of great acharyas, scriptural writings predicting Prabhupada's coming. So it's my very good fortune that I was given this wonderful mercy by Srila Prabhupada of this knowledge. And now you all have access, everyone has the same access that I had. Prabhupada's books, it's all here. You don't need any some kind of mystical, placing of the hands on the head or something like that. Simply you have to read these books. Especially this book we recommend, Bhagavad Gita as it is.